less than a nightmare. Think about it, peak rush hour, 6:30 p.m. in the evening, 7 different locations, blasts take place in the city of Mumbai. Not too long back, this was 2006 we are talking about, where we lost 189 residents of the city, over 800 people, commuters of local train injured, some of them dismembered, rendered immobile for life. Now, this is not one story, these are multiple stories, so many of these stories from this city where we live in. I'm joined by S. Balakrishnan, Executive Editor of Free Press Journal. Bala, this is again an emotional story for us. It's so close to us. I mean, we live in Mumbai. These are the trains we take. These are the locations we go by on a daily basis. Our colleagues go to these locations back home, and to see that 19 years later, all those people who died, no justice has been served. First of all, please tell our viewers what happened during the course of trial and during the process of judgment.
Frida, that day I was very much in Mumbai. I covered this blast for the newspaper for which I was working at that time, conducting. Even today, the scenes of the bodies which you mentioned, dismembered, headless bodies, headless torsos, and the insane hospital, the morgues, the hospitals were full of dead bodies and blood and worse, and so many people injured. There was a total confusion that day. It is very too shocking. And in '93, Mumbai had witnessed a serious blast, but this was much more worse. The number of people injured, the scale of destruction was huge. What happened that day? But despite such a huge urban terror attack happening, it is simply shocking. Yesterday, all the people of Mumbai, why Mumbai, even in India, they're completely stunned and shocked as when the Bombay High Court said 12 of the people were acquitted. One had died, so 11 were acquitted. They were in various jails, Yerevada, Amrati, other jails, and they are all innocent. And the same people have been convicted by the trial court, by the special court. 5 of them were sentenced to death, and the remaining were sentenced to life imprisonment. Now the question that arises is, was it a failure on the part of the trial court that they did not that they appreciated the evidence which was presented by the prosecutor on behalf of the anti-terrorism squad? Or if that is the case, kind of thing, what is the accountability for the judge who delivered the judgment? And apart from that, it has taken 19 long years for the High Court to do justice. Is it some kind of a joke or what? Given the gravity of the offence, the High Court on its own, suo motu, should have expedited the trial. It did no such thing.
It went to the High Court in 2019. First came up in January 2019, didn't progress as multiple benches assigned to the case were dissolved or altered before hearing could begin. So there was a long period where
more than 6 years. I can very well understand the number of witnesses there, but day-to-day hearing ought to have been held. I mean, you are making a mockery of law. You are making mockery of justice. And apart from that, what about the mental trauma of those families who are lost their near and dear ones and the thing, or who are people who are injured, who are still alive, kind of thing? What about their trauma?
I would request our viewers to check the video where, like Bala is saying, we have accounts of those families, and when they heard this judgment, what they go through, how they feel.
There's a massive human tragedy which unfolded in Mumbai in 2006, but the bigger tragedy is that justice has not been done even today.
It is as if nobody did it.
Exactly.
What are you trying to say? If everybody is acquitted, no one accused, everyone is innocent, then who did it? It's become a whodunit story. I want to read out a little bit of excerpt of what the High Court said, which said that, pointing out glaring lapses on part of the prosecution, the Bombay High Court said that it did not produce the call data records of the accused, which raised serious doubt on the investigation, asserting the failure to produce CDR amounts to a grave violation. But my question is, call data records that can only be sustained for a certain period of time. If there has been so much delay in the courts, how can you expect even those calls?
No.
Do you think there's a failure?
Technically, it can be done, but the High Court has used extremely strong word to condemn the anti-terrorism squad. It has used the word utter failure. Normally the High Courts, the higher court don't use words loosely, but here it's a well thought out. This one, the division bench says utter failure. The anti-terrorism squad, whoever did the investigation, has got to be made accountable. made to answer as to how come this kind of a judgment was delivered, and what about the public prosecutor? If at all there were any legal infirmities in the arguments put out by the ATS, why the public prosecutor did not point out this kind of thing? But whereas the Jamaat-e-Islami, it hired the best of lawyers, the best of the legal brains to defend all the accused person, and the arguments put out by them were simply brilliant, and they were able to convince the Honorable High Court about the so-called innocence of these people. If an NGO like Jamaat-e-Islami can do that, what about the state? The state of Maharashtra ought to have done. The Home Ministry monitors each and every important case. What was the officials in Home Ministry doing? It's a good thing that today itself the Maharashtra government and the Devendra Fadnavis, they have moved the Supreme Court. But I hope at least in the Supreme Court they will do a good job and ensure that justice is done. It is not that 189 people are killed, more than 800 are seriously injured, and nobody knows who did this. This is a tamasha.
Yes, absolutely. And let's be very clear, Bala, that the court after all is bound by evidence.
Precisely.
If the evidence don't add up, and the court has repeatedly said that this cannot be evidence that goes beyond reasonable doubt. Now that is a legal compulsion.
That's true. That's true.
And that way the judges cannot move in favor of one side or the other unless this is something watertight and beyond reasonable doubt. But in conclusion, I want to ask you, there was an alternate blast theory, there were so many other issues, conspiracy theories that were floated, but in your understanding, where did the prosecution falter?
See, they did not do due diligence. The investigation have to be done. See, the fact that such highly sophisticated the method was used to carry out this terror attack, it can't be done by ordinary robbers or gundas or something like that. These are all trained people. How to assemble the bomb, the timing, one after another coming, the serial blasts which were organized. These were done by people who are extremely trained. And obviously somebody from the Defense Ministry of Pakistan or ISA or whatever it is, they have trained these people who has executed this one. The anti-terrorist squad was not able to find out who these people are, what was the motivation. It is said that it was to take revenge for what happened in Gujarat and all that. And most of the areas which were there, they were all where Gujaratis were traveling at that time from their shops or whatever it is. And that is one line of theory. But the thing is, they are all Mumbai, they are all Indian citizens. Innocent people who have got nothing to do with any radicalism or violence or something like that.
Innocent people, residents like you and me who travel by the local trains. It's the lifeline of this city. Bala, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
I want to just say this is not a story we will allow to fall off the headlines, which is why we are doing this as part of Sideline from the Headline. FPJ would not allow the story to go off so easily. Bala will be updating us on what happens in Supreme Court.
I hope the Supreme Court gives the kind of urgency that this case deserves and then passes its final verdict at least within 3 months.
It cannot be forgotten. It cannot be allowed to fall off the headlines and forgotten.
Exactly.
189 lives of Mumbaikars like us lost on that fateful.
Definitely. Thank you so much.